Welcome, everybody. Lesson 6, we're going to talk about rate, ratios, proportions, and percentages. So these are ideas that we use in everyday life. We use it shopping, we use it for sports, speeding, driving, taxes, discounts, shopping. So we're just going to break it down step by step and go over definitions first. So on our handout here, you'll see rate. It's a comparison between two quantities of a different kind. A ratio is a comparison between two quantities of the same kind, and a proportion an equality of two ratios. On the side there, we have to identify which one is a rate, a ratio, and a proportion. So the 4 to 2 centimeters on the right side there, it is both in centimeters. So we're using the same units. We know the same units means it's a ratio. Underneath, we have kilometers and hours. We're using different units. Because we're using different units, that we know is a rate. And then at the end there, we have 4, 5, 8, 10. On that line, C. This is showing us two ratios with an equal sign. It's showing us those two ratios are equal. That is showing us it is a proportion. So underneath there, you'll see our line, the PQRS line. PQR, sorry. So in total, from P to R, you see that's 24 centimeters. And then they show us one part of the line, the QR is 6 centimeters. Underneath, it's asking us for different ratios. First, we have to find out all the parts. I'm just going to go on the side here. So we know PR is 24 centimeters. We know QR is 6 centimeters. What we need to find is PQ. How do we find PQ? So PQ is going to be PR take away QR. And that is going to be 24 take away 6. And that is going to be 18. So then we know PQ is 18. Now that we have all of those numbers, we can start making our ratios. So PQ over QR will be 18 over 6. Because now we can just go through and we're just plugging in all our numbers. PR, 24, over PQ is 24 over 18. QR is 6 over PR, which is 24. And PR, which is 24, over QR, which is 6. Now we did all of our fractions. We can go and write it in a different format. So 18 over 6 can simplify to 3 over 1. So our final answer, written as a ratio, would be 3:1. 24 over 18 can get simplified to 4 over 3. Our ratio, 4:3. 6 over 24 can get simplified to 1 over 4. Our ratio is 1:4. And our last fraction can get simplified. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So our ratio would be, because we know that is over 1. Moving on to rates, our definition by the light bulb. Unit rate is a rate in simplest form. The second term has a unit of 1. So in the first example of driving, this will be very familiar. It says driving 360 kilometers in 3 hours. We want to know how many kilometers could you drive in 1 hour? We're finding the rate of that speed. How do we do that? We go 360 divided by 3 is 120. Now we know in 1 hour, we did 120 kilometers of driving. So we can write that. We can write that in like this. Now, 4 oranges for $4.88. How much was 1 orange? We're going to divide that total cost by 4 oranges. And that gives us $1.22. So we're going to say it was $1.22 per 1 orange. Now we have a bus of 40 tourists. 40 tourists on 8 taxis. How many tourists are in 1 taxi? We want to find that rate. So we are going to divide. $40 divided by 8 is 5. So we know there were 5 tourists on each taxi. 5 per 1 taxi. Now you'll see here, we have some pictures. When 2 ratios are equivalent, they form a proportion. So remember, when there's 2 ratios and they're equal, that situation is called a proportion. It's asking us, say whether the given ratios form a proportion. So it's asking us, are these equal? Are these ratios equal? Are these ratios showing us a proportion? Let's take a look. A, 3/5 and 6/12. We have 2 ratios. Let's simplify first. We have 3/5 and 1/2, because we can simplify that 6/12 in 1/2. Are those equal? The answer is no. It is not equal. 3/5 does not equal 1/2. Not a proportion. And now let's take a look here. We have the ratios 9/12 and 3/4. Let's put them in fraction form. And let's simplify this. So we can divide the 9/12 by 3. So 9 into 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Are those equal? Yes, they are equal. So this is a proportion. Okay. Now at the top there, creating proportions. So we want to create 2 equivalent ratios. So 2 equivalent proportions. And we're going to write them in fraction form as well. Now, there's a bubble on the side there. To create equivalent ratios, we have to multiply each term in the ratio by the same number. Let's look at the first one, 1 to 3. They want us to make a proportion. So we want to make an equivalent ratio. So first, let's think. We just need to multiply each term by the same number. Let's take the number 2. Let's times 1 by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so that's 2 over 6. Now it's asking us to just do it again. Choose a new number. Okay, let's choose the number 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Putting that in fraction form, 3 over 9. So those are, we just created equal proportions. Now it's asking us to look at 2 over 5. Let's multiply both by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. So our ratio, 2 to 5, is also equal to 4 to 10. And now 3 to 8. We can multiply both by 3. So let's go 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 3 is 24. So the ratio 3 to 8 is equal to 9 to 24. And that in itself is a proportion. Down here, it talks about missing a term in a proportion. So if you're given something like this, it's asking you to find the missing term. Let's read this. To determine the missing term in a proportion, rewrite them first as equivalent fractions. Find a complete corresponding pair, a numerator to numerator, denominator to denominator. Then determine the scale factor. Use the scale factor to multiply or divide the missing term. So that's lots of words. Let's break it down with our numbers. We're going to fill this in with x. 2x equals 6, 9. It wants us to write it in a fraction. So what did we have to do to 2 to get to 6? What was the function? So from 2 to 6, we have to times 2 by 3. So that means 9, opposite sign, divided by 3 will give us x. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. So then we know x, the missing number is 3. Let's try it on this side. This is x. To get from 2 to 8, we have to times that by 4. 2 times 4 gives us 8. Now we do the same to the bottom. Look at the arrows. This is going this way to the right. So we have to times this by 4 to keep it the same. 5 times 4 is 20. X equals 20. Moving on to percentages. We use percents in so many aspects of life. So percentages, we use percentage in many aspects of our lives. The word percent comes from Latin per centum, meaning per each 100. The symbol, that percentage symbol, is used when you're speaking about percentages. Now, beside the light bulb there, percent is another way of writing a fraction with a denominator of 100. Percent as a number. A number is just an amount, and a percent is just a fraction. So finding the percent of a number is really just finding the fraction of an amount. Let's take a look here at the blue and red hats. It's asking us, you have 60 collectible baseball caps. You promised your younger brother 30% of them. when you moved out of the house to go to university. So how many caps will your brother get? So we need to find 30% of your 60 hats. What is that number? Because that is how many hats your brother will get. Method number 1, in fraction form. So 30% is 30 over 100. So we can simplify that to 3 over 10. Now we can multiply. So let's do that. 3 over 10 times 6. 60. That's one method you could do. Another method is decimal form. So if you change that into a decimal, so decimal form, we know that from conversions. So 30% is 0.30. Then you would take that decimal, times it by 60, and that number is 18. So what is our answer? Our answer is 18. My brother would get 18 baseball caps. And now let's talk about shopping. This is our last example here. Let's determine the sales tax on a backpack that costs $68.51 if the item is purchased in Ontario, where the harmonized sales tax, HST, is 13%, and then calculate the total cost of the backpack. So this is very relatable math. I'm sure when we're all out, we're always wondering what the cost is before tax or after tax. Two different strategies we will walk through here. First, we want to convert, and we want to find the tax amount. So the first thing we're going to do is take that tax percentage and make it into a decimal. So we know 13% in a decimal is 0.13. Then we want to multiply it by our backpack cost because we're going to add the tax onto the backpack cost. So we have 68.51 plus 68.51 times 0.13. And our answer is 8.9063. So we will round our cents. Let's call it 8.91. That is our tax amount. Now we need to add that tax amount to our original price. So we will go 68.51 plus 891 equals $77.42 after tax. The second strategy we can do is we can multiply our backpack cost by 1.13. Let's try that. Times, and if you take your calculator out, that's totally okay. Let's see what our answer is. The answer you will get is 77.42. We got the same answer. All right, so today we learned about the ratios, rates. We learned about proportions, how to create proportions, how to find some missing terms, how to calculate a percentage, how to calculate tax. And these are very relatable skills that we use in everyday situations with money and comparisons. Now you can go on to complete your own worksheet, and I will see you next lesson.